Hi, I'm Jacques Barrett, comedian, actress, and idiot. I have a podcast of my own. It's called Quite the Pickle. Each week, myself and fellow comedian Emma Zammit think up a heinous situation, and then we interview a professional who gives us tricks, tips, and pointers on how to survive the pickle. At the end of each episode, we perform stand-up that we've written about what we learnt in the interview. It's a lot of fun. That's Quite the Pickle, available on iTunes and Spotify.
We hope you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's the Andy Social Podcast, episode 302, and my guest on this episode is Broden Minogue. I've known Broden for many, many years. In fact, I'm pretty sure, and I reckon he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the first time I met Broden in person was when he was fronting a band called Rocksteady, and straight out of Bendigo, and us being Lord were on tour at the time, and we were going through Bendigo to play a show, and Rocksteady played with us. And a side note, actually, Jordan, who played in Rocksteady at the time as well with Broden, went on to form the band Vessel, who are absolutely fantastic bands, so go and check them out. And Jordan is also a Patreon supporter of mine, patreon.com/Andy Dowling, as well as a long-time listener, almost since day dot, of the Andy Social Podcast, along with Broden as well. So shout out to Jordan. Thank you very much for the support. And but more importantly, Broden. This is the spotlight on Broden. Ever since we first connected, we've stayed in contact. And most recently, what Broden's been up to is co-hosting the awesome podcast called the Flow State Podcast with Cody Jones. And the guys have also been filming a series called Bonk City Detectives, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's hilarious. It's well done. And the first episode's out now, so you can check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes so you can go and check that out, as well as the Flow State Podcast. As mentioned, Broden is a musician. He's been doing music all the way through. He's got a project called, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, LUFFEGUN or LUFFEGUN or something like that. And there's a song that he's put out called Sparkling Isolation, LUFFEGUN with Amy V. So I'll chuck a link and a video into the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. But everything will be in there. Click through in the description. Go and say hi to Broden. Go and check out Flow State Podcast. Go and check out Bonk City Detectives. Go and check out LUFFEGUN or whatever the hell it is. But enough crapping on from me. Please enjoy this really, really hilarious, fun chat with the legend himself, Broden Minogue.
Andy, you with me?
Yeah, I am. I was thinking, who should speak first? Should I speak because I called you, or do you speak first because you answer?
There's one of those ones where there's no point going, hello, who is it?
Times have changed.
They have. Times have changed. Do you know anyone's phone number?
Oh, no, I don't. And I get in trouble all the time from my wife because my wife knows my mobile number, that's just freakish. But then whenever I have to write down her number, I go, what's your number again? Or I go and grab my phone and flick through, and she goes, I can't believe you still don't know my number. I'm like, well, there's no need to remember it. Like, it's everything's at my fingertips.
It's in the phone. Yeah, it's right. What if you ever get stuck in the desert and you got amnesia?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to remember the fucking number, are you?
That's it. I mean, it's different these days, man. It's
very much.
It's just a different world. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about even before like cordless phones. Cordless phones are like a luxury. Like only the rich people had them. Like you go to a friend's place and they had like a cordless phone. It's like, oh man, that's like state of the art. And the rest of us had like the, cord to the handset sort of thing, and you'd like sort of be hanging in the door frame.
Sit at the wall, yeah. Sweet, climb on the door frame while you're talking to people. Those people who had the wireless phones, the cordless phones, they always had the cordless phones and a bowl of cocaine on their kitchen table. That's how, you know what I mean? Like
hand in hand.
Rich motherfuckers. Yeah, exactly. And jet skis and shit.
Whenever you go to Harvey Norman back in the early 90s, that was like the combo pack that you get.
Yeah, crystalware, a couple of baggies of coke, like nanobols, but that lollies are supposed to go in, but they top them up. Oh, that's interesting, sugar ball. That ain't sugar.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, it's multi-purpose. Okay, yeah, no worries.
That's it.
Mum, let's get this. Yeah.
Hey, man. So what are we doing? Yeah, good man. Are we on or are we?
Yeah, we're on. Why not? Fucking.
Yeah, might as well be.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but like when you guys are doing a podcast, do you just start? Like, do you just go and press record ASAP because you're always worried about things not going, like you forget to press record later on, you're halfway through a conversation, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we do, but like we do all that fucking valuetainment shit at the start, like, thanks for watching the episode. This one's sponsored by the Antisocial Podcast, and go and click something there because we need cash and we're poor and we don't know why we're still doing this. Do I sound okay? On your end? Everything sounds good?
You sound fantastic. Yeah, it's great.
That's great.
It's refreshing when somebody has their shit half together. It's good.
Well, man, I'll tell you what, I've never been on an overseas holiday, and I'm talking through the money that I would have spent on one of those now. For example, I bet your normal guests don't have their own delay system.
Oh, wow.
and if I ever like, want to talk to myself or like, make it sound really good, I can harmonize with myself or make it sound like I'm an alien from another planet.
Wow, I think you just stepped my own podcast up a notch there. I think
has me on, views go down, but production value goes up.
Oh, mate, the cogs are turning in my head. People listening to this who have been listening to me for a while going, I know exactly what Andy's going to be doing for the next 300 episodes for sure.
We should do little, while we're going, we should like do those spots like, you are listening to the Andy Social Podcast. Please, I don't know, please push 1 to be connected. I don't know.
Yeah, mate. Well, hey, I'll let you go and I'll pull all these out. I'll cut them in.
Yeah, just pull them out.
Why not?
Just yank them. I do that. Do you ever do that? I mean, sure you don't because you're a normal functioning human, but I'm fucking retarded. So I always do this thing where people call me up and I go, the person you are calling is not available. Please press 1, just dumb shit like that, just to see. And sometimes I fucking get people, please leave a short 10-second message and we'll send it as a voice message. And then beep, and then someone will say something. And I'm like, how can you fall for that? I don't even sound like Jane Holmes. That's the lady's name who does Telstra.
I didn't know that. Is
She's the weather lady on 3AW.
Ah, I was going to say, is there more of a backstory to her? So there you go, weather woman.
I'm sure there is. I mean, she's a human too, Andy. She has a family. Of course there's a backstory.
I thought these people had no soul.
What are you talking about? Like that Siri woman, she was just artificially inseminated from Steve Jobs' penis or something. I don't know. How does that work? I don't get technology.
I love the voicemails that you get when you call certain people and it goes, hello? And then there's a pause for ages and you go, hey, mate, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'm not available right now. It's like, oh, you bastard. You got me.
Let's agree to disagree on that because that is like level 1 voice message prank bullshit. I hate it. I've had enough. I'm fucking writing a letter actually to the government about trying to put a stop to that because they've gone too far. It was good in 2003. It's good. It's creative. I like it. And that's the thing is I don't think you should ever stop anyone from being creative and you should never put your foot on someone's neck to stand on them and rise yourself above them. I think that anybody doing something with their brain that gives someone some entertainment is doing a better thing than somebody who's not.
Well, I mean, that's what the internet's here for, isn't it? I mean, it's opened up a
world
of
many things.
amazing things.
It has, but at the same time, you do get that saturation of shit. You're in that game where, look, we're in this podcast thing, and I'm only here because you're here. You kind of paved this way for us, for everybody. But the thing is that you do get a saturation of shit, especially when you go into a lockdown situation that we've been in for the last 18 months, really. I'm just really glad that we started our show, Flow State Podcast, just before the shit hit the fan, and we'd started, doing production on this in November, December, putting it out in February. And I'm glad to say that we're not one of those people who's like, oh my God, let's start a podcast because it's... And then guess what? Those people should still start a podcast. They should. They totally should. They totally 100% should. Because, everyone's got something interesting to say.
It was a bit
huge.
tough because, especially for me, like I sort of sat back and went, oh man, I thought I was already like sitting in a saturated market as it was with people starting podcasts, and then suddenly everyone was doing, whether it be the Facebook
you had
Live,
no idea what was coming.
Oh, mate.
Oh, yeah.
But I think one thing, and I've said this quite a bit over the years, one podcast, as you know, they're really, okay, you're having a bit of a yarn, you're talking, you just record it, you throw it out there, but there's a lot more to it. And I think the consistency of just showing up and just doing it is like 3/4 of the battle. It's so hard to maintain it. And you'll see all these people come, they announce these new shows and putting things out there, and, the production and whatever PR they've got behind it looks really fantastic. But then after 2 or 3 months, they're gone. And they never come back.
Out.
Yeah, so that's in the back of my head. That's the little voice going, just keep doing it, Andy. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. You'll still be there. Everyone else will go. Just keep doing it.
You're a hugely self-motivated person, though. I'm quite the opposite. Where if I didn't have Cody Jones, the co-host of Flow State podcast, I probably wouldn't be doing it because it's really hard to do something consistently. But when we started out, we bashed 7 episodes out in 3 days, 2 or 3 days, because I had topics we picked, and that meant we were 2 months ahead. From day 3, we were 2 months ahead already, and it was just a matter of keeping consistent in the sense that if we had an afternoon to fuck around, we could get together and do a few episodes, pump them out, get them out of here, and then we kind of shit happened and with the world, and we couldn't really get together to do much, so we laid back a little bit, and then we're like, hey, let's do this Zoom thing. And I figure, if it's good enough for Conan O'Brien, it's good enough for us, because he was everyone had to do that. So at one point, this is one stat for you. At one point in time, mine and Cody's show was on the same level as Conan O'Brien's show. I mean, you take the wins, you take the little wins.
Straight to the pool room, mate.
Yeah, exactly. But look, I'll tell you what, man. It's one of those things where you do get you do get an overinflation of shit. But within the last few months, I suppose that's cleaned itself up. You and I have talked privately about my whinge with some of the podcasting hosting platforms, which is one that you graciously got us onto called Whooshka, which we love. We appreciate the fact that they exist, and we really appreciated at the time the fact that they existed for free, so we could host all of our stuff on there. We had one show. We had as many hours as we want for backup. We can put it all in there and it distributes it out. I don't know if people know how those distribution works for podcasts, but you upload your thing to one area and then it sends it off to Spotify, to I don't know. I don't even listen to many podcasts. So what else is there?
There's a bunch of others. I don't know. Who knows? Podcast places.
Yeah, it pumps them all out, so it distributes them all from there, and this one was free. And we're like, great, Andy uses it, we'll use it too. So we got on there, and it starts happening. And then, emails from those places go straight to junk because nobody reads that shit. You go on, you want to look at your stats, you go and find your stats. You don't open the email they send to it. By the way, here's your stats. You're like, yeah, I'll look at them when I'm ready. So they're sending us emails for months going, your free tier is about to end. Your free tier is about to end. Your free tier is about to end. And we didn't check that. And then they're like, we're deleting all your shit. I'm like, hang on, what? When? And like, by the way, we're going to delete all your shit unless you give us $60 a month. And I'm like, wow, this was free 2 minutes ago. And I was just like real fucking dark on them going, you're holding us all hostage. But I mean, can you hear that in the background there, like this weird noise?
No, I can't. Is it on my end? Or
you can't hear it? No, it's definitely on my end. It's the neighbour's got CB radios and it comes through all my gear.
Can you hear them? Can you hear what they're saying?
I can hear them, yeah. It sounds like I can't hear what they say, but it goes, like it sounds, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys can't hear that in the final mix down. So these guys they have gone, we need the money now. We're providing this as a service there. We're going to make it good for you, except the paid tier wasn't as good as the free tier that we previously had been using. So we're like, fuck, what do we do? And it, just kind of one of those things that started to filter out. I suppose guys like us, who, we're not making enough money through a podcast because we do it as something for ourselves as a creative outlet to cover the costs of running the thing itself, just getting people to hear it, So we kind of had a bit of what do you want to do here, boys? Because this is a bit of bullshit. And they've gone, we'll give you fucking. I don't know we said we're going to leave, we're going to fuck off to somewhere else and go, look, I'll tell you what, if you stay, we'll give you 10% off. And I'm like, nah, mate, that's piss weak. All right. 15. I'm like, yeah, we're talking. I don't know what the final figure was, but they do. That's just how companies operate. If you threaten to leave, they'll sweeten the deal for you. So we stayed on it, and we got to figure out, if we can continue to do it. Otherwise, Cody's having a great time on YouTube, so we could just throw it all on YouTube. He's got 8,500 fucking people on there, or 9,000 people on there, and I'm like, well, we could just pump that straight out to there. It's probably more than the collective, episode reach of the show at the moment. So, but you've got to be in a few places, don't you?
Well, you do, and I mean, I went through this exact same thing with Whooshka, where my initial reaction was, fuck you, like, how dare you go and pull the rug out and just mess with everything I pumped so much time into. But then I think, as you said, I mean, their argument is that, well, we're providing a service and you've been getting it for free. So it's going to come a time where, come on, like you got to put your hand in your pocket. And I sort of like,
someone's got to give you.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, fair call. Because I think their model to begin with when they started was they made their money out of advertising. So, you upload your stuff, and then they would be able to work with you to get advertisers, and then they would take a cut of whatever advertising revenue that they were able to funnel through to your podcast. However, your podcast had to have a minimum number of listeners per week or month or episode or whatever it is in order to be eligible. And no doubt what Whooshkaa has on, when they had it for free was thousands and thousands of shows probably getting 20 downloads an episode or something like that. And they were making nothing from them. So, and I think initially they were Australian, but I think they sold the company. I think it's an American mob that run it now, I think. Because no doubt you guys would have seen when you get charged, it's all in US dollars now. It's all... That's
correct, yeah.
And I think their help center and everything, I think it's offshore somewhere, whether it's in the US or where elsewhere, I don't know. But certainly it was a bit of an adjustment period for me, because I was like, I really didn't know what to do. And I thought, this is really concerning, because at any stage, anybody can mess with the hard. I mean, I've got all the original files. I've got all that sort of stuff. That's okay. I'm not losing it forever. But, what I've created online as far as a presence could just be taken from me at any point. And even today, I'm still thinking about what's the best way of having things out there for longevity without some business or operation ceasing to exist or changing their terms and then, making life really difficult for me. So I don't have the answer to that, but I think one of the things that at least gave me peace of mind in the short term was that even though the goalposts were changing, there would have been a very high percentage of all those free podcasts that were taking advantage of that free tier who would have just packed the towel and just said, nah, look, I've got this is enough. Let's just move on, and I don't know. Let's just go to live Facebooking and live Instagramming, and we'll just leave it at that, and let's not bother with the podcast anymore. And so the playing field just got a little bit more refined, rather than heaps of noise out there. That's what I hope, anyway.
Those guys, I mean, I totally understand that, and you doing the podcast about people's businesses, I'm sure, and from your travels in life would know that if you've got all your eggs in one basket, you're fucked, because that basket the ass can fall out of it. Yeah. And I think there's I don't know if it's nothing's a rule, you can operate however you want, but if there's more than 25% of your profit or your value coming from one place, then when that goes, you're a quarter down and you're in trouble. So you've got to spread those assets out to the point where you're getting a good percentage from everywhere, so that if one goes, then if one goes, then you're going to be okay if you lose one. So I think that's one of those things too, that if we were getting all of our stuff just from YouTube, then there's the opportunity for YouTube to go, we don't like what you said there. We're going to take that off, and we're going to remove all your stuff. And I feel like that's the problem that the world's most famous podcaster, the king of podcasting, Mr. Joe Rogan, had, who I blame, by the way, for all this. I blame him. I watch his show. I like it. I reckon he talks a lot of shit. But hey, I talk more shit. Less people listen to what I have to say, though, so I don't have as much pull on that. But the thing is, Joe Rogan's podcast has been around for 10, 15 years almost.
Yep.
It's been around for a long time. So everyone knows about the famous deal where Joe Rogan receives around $100 million for the exclusive rights to his show, the Joe Rogan Experience. And I feel like that then, because I'll give you the money rundown on that. Give Joe Rogan $100 million. Within 48 hours, Spotify stock increased by 45 billion or something. Was it 5 billion? Sorry, 5 billion. 5 billion with a B, not 45. That'd be
it's still out of control anyway.
So that's way more than I'll ever see in my existence, I'm sure. And so they've given him this $100 million, which to them is nothing, because Spotify's business model is take from the artist. And give to Joe Rogan. I don't agree with how Spotify's model works, because yourself being a musician and myself being involved in that for a very long time. I mean, I've never had money involved in Spotify, but the way that their situation operates is not very fair to the artist, and that's just how it is. I'm sure everybody knows about that. But for them to go, all right, we're going to give Joe Rogan this money. We've put a value on the idea of a podcast that is interesting to somebody to listen to. So they will go, okay, cool, Joe Rogan's is good. We're going to take it. We'll give him this much. And people go, hang on a minute. This new media shit. What's this? Podcasts. Wow, we like that. Hey, can we give you some money? And they go, oh, yeah, man, this is great. How much? $20,000. $20,000 for the exclusive rights to my podcast for 3 years. That's amazing. Hold on a minute. You could be sitting on more for that. You could be sitting on more, it could be more valuable to someone else. So they've priced out this market based on Joe Rogan being the basis for this entire situation. Here's Joe Rogan, $100 million. Now you are basing everything on that. You got Antisocial, which might be worth it could be worth 2 Joe Rogans, but nobody knows that. We could have Flow State Podcast, which could be worth a quarter of one, but nobody knows that. But the thing is, you've given him the cash, and now other people are going, hey, there's value in this. I think we can make money from people who want to be Joe Rogan. So they go, you know, that service we give for free and we don't worry about? Let's ask them for some money, because it was like, hey, you know what? You could be the next Joe Rogan. Really? You think? Yeah, of course we can. How do I do it? Well, look, if you give us $60 a month, I won't delete all your shit and you'll have a better chance at it. So you get, you know, I can't, like, obviously I'm joking that I don't blame Joe Rogan for it. It's not his fault that he did better than everybody else. He did a great job and he has interesting people on. It's great. Do we find trying to get guests on the show can sometimes be a little bit of an issue, and due to obviously scheduling and, you know, people being locked down and stuff like that. You do all yours over the phone though, Andy. So do you have much trouble trying to get people, like land them?
Yeah. I mean, I still do. I think it depends on the person. I think if it's somebody who's not used to doing interviews or doing podcasts and things like that, there's a little bit more of a novelty to it and they get excited, and especially if they haven't had a chance to really talk about the things that they enjoy, then it's a bit easy to pin them down. I think what we find now, I'm sure you guys have seen it, is people that work in entertainment, whether it be the arts or, you know, or any sort of field that, or actually it's not even entertainment or the arts, it's anything now. It's anything that's got a platform. I think podcasts have become such a frequent and familiar thing to so many people that it's sort of lost a little bit of that shine to it, where you approach someone and say, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And they're like, oh yeah, no worries. I'll get through
what's
the other
this
7.
one about?
Yeah, I'll get through the other 7 that I've got to do first before I get to you. And sort of that appeal is not quite what it used to be. And I think that's obviously because of the way that podcasting has become quite popular over the years, which, you know, as we all know, there's good things that have come out of it and there's not so good things that have come out of it. But I think, I mean, it's just that glass half full perspective. I mean, I'm sure, like, you guys have gone through this multiple times over the past year or so, where you, at times, like, these roadblocks that pop up in front of you end up being the things that can make or break what you're doing. And if you can get past that roadblock, that means that half the people that are also at that roadblock aren't going to get through. You're going to get through. And then as long as you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, then it's that longevity piece that ends up rewarding you down the track. So every time, like, you know, for me, like, one of the struggles I always have is with, like, comedians or people that are a little bit more famous that have been on TV, or like a personality or something like that, where they're used to doing press, they're used to doing especially comedians. Fuck, they almost invented the podcast,
they love it,
you know. And,
exactly.
And it almost gets to a point where they're like, another podcast, you know. And so and so you're like, how do I make mine like a little bit different to everybody else's when all I'm doing is just talking to them on a microphone like every other podcast? And so, but you know, you got to do it your own way, and everyone's, you know, an individual, so you could bring your own individual flair to it. But I don't know, man. It's just, I think it's been a very interesting thing over the past, you know, however many years of doing it, because it's just a constant mental obstacle course of just running through different things that stop you in your tracks. You get through it, you persevere, you push through it. You know, you mentioned before about self-motivation. I mean, my self-motivation is basically just beat myself to a pulp and just reduce myself to tears until eventually I've got nowhere else to go but to plow through, and then eventually get on the other side and go, what was I whinging about? And then I just keep going. So
that's you've just defined an abusive relationship there, Andy.
Yeah.
That's, I think, I'm not trying to say cut the dead weight, but maybe you'd be happier without it.
Oh, mate, but
you could really sore. It's making you cry, and then you're like, no, I deserve this. You know what I mean?
You got to do it. You piece of shit. How dare you not do this? Come on.
What's this? What the fuck is this? Who guests? Broden? What the fuck's Broden Minogue doing on your shit? What's this shit? Fuck off. It's like that. What's that Bill Burr joke about when he gets home and his wife, tuna casserole? Bill Burr will tell it better than I will. I won't go on with Bill's joke.
Oh, mate.
But man, comedians are, like, Cody's a comedian, and this is the thing, is I get kind of muddled in with this bunch. I'm not a comedian. Cody's a comedian, and he's the reason we have this show, and the reason that we want it to be good and we want it to be funny. But Cody, most of the guests that come on are people that Cody knows. He does so much fucking work on this thing, man. Like he pumps it, and every single day, like I don't know how to edit really I mean, I know how to make an edit look like an edit, but he's fast as hell on the computer with editing, things like that. We've been using this OBS software, open broadcasting software, so we have 2 cameras set up. The joke in that is that the cameras never look good. The set looks great, the lighting's great, but we can't get the fucking both of the cameras to work properly at the same time because we're just cheating our way into it with some cheap stuff. But Cody pumps all this time and energy into this thing and gets us these great guests. I mean, you and I share a few guests like Goxie. You've had Nick Capper on, have you?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, Capper's been on. We've had Tommy Seggett, who was the Australian. What was he called? He was called the suburban footballer. He was on the Footy Show a little while ago.
Yeah.
When that was on. It's been good to have to share some guys. You hooked us up with. I can't believe you actually hooked us up with Tom Waits. That's amazing. The Tom Waits is coming on the show.
The Tom Waits,
great piano player. He's coming on. Tommy Waite's coming on soon, and he got to us through you, and he sent us a copy of his book to check out, and we can't wait to have a chat with him. But it's been like Cody goes this one. He says to me one day, he's a big manifester, right? And he goes, "We're getting David Icke." And I'm like, "No, we're not getting David Icke." But I'm getting. And he goes, "Nah, I've already manifested it. It's happening." Yeah, he goes, "I've already done it. It's done." And I'm like, "What did you do?" And he goes, "I just sent him an email." And he's like, I didn't think much more of it. I'm in Broken Hill on a holiday because that's where you go for holidays, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to Broken Hill. And so I'd been to Adelaide to visit some friends, went to Broken Hill, wrote a song with my friend Amy and filmed a video clip for it, which was a great time. Just before the shit at the fan, by the way. Sparkling Isolation by LUFFEGUN feat. Amy V, if you want to have a look at that. And he goes, David Icke wrote back. I'm like, fuck off. So I log into the email and he's like, yeah, man, let's do it. And I was like, I cannot believe it. It took months after that because he kept having to reschedule because he was hot at the time because COVID was on, and he's telling everybody how it wasn't real and how this is what's going on. I'm not bloody wearing a mask. I'm not doing it. I'm not bloody doing it. And so he is going on everything and just saying all this stuff like 4 hours. And eventually I've just gone, nah, this is fucked. I'm sick of getting fucked around. I haven't got time for this shit. And Cody's like, listen, just do it. Trust me, it'll be worth it. And I'm like, he rescheduled from 8 o'clock our time to 10 o'clock our time to 2 a.m. our time. And I'm like, he's fucking with us. He's seen the show. He knows that it's a comedy thing, that it's a bit of a laugh and stuff like that. And he doesn't think we'll take him seriously. So he's fucking with us. And I'm like, why would he do that? Like, it turns out he wasn't doing that. He was literally legitimately just busy. And so Cody's like, shut up. You're being a fuckhead. Just do it. And I'm like, all right, man. I'm on holidays. I'll tell you what, because he stood us up the first time. He forgot about it because his son was on holidays who runs all this shit, and he stood us up. So we filmed like an hour and a half Zoom call of Cody and I just sitting there waiting for him. And the plan was if he didn't come on, we're going to do like a documentary on how David Icke stood us up.
Content.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we were doing. Like, we got to turn this into something, the pain. Eventually he comes on. And we're like, hey, David, how you going? And he goes, yep, guys, now listen here. The thing with censorship is on YouTube, right? What's going on is they've banned me from Australia, actually, and Dan Andrews knows what's going on. And I was just from then. And then it was 2 hours solid of David speaking. He was out of the gate. He just finished one. And then he came in to do ours, and he was like straight out of the gate going fucking full bore. And I think we barely got a word in. I tried to have a bit of a joke with him, and he was like, he gave me one of them looks like, what did you just fucking say to me? I don't think he realized till right at the end that we were cool and he was cool and we could have a bit of a laugh. But I asked him one question where I said something about, he said, he believes that this wearing a mask is the first step to becoming a genderless artificial human 2.0. And I was like, fuck, that sounds cool. That sounds awesome. I was like, dude, you make it sound so sinister and evil. That sounds awesome. I want a pet alien. How do we put that fucking further in? Because, we can send that thing to space. We can breed it so that it doesn't live on air. We can send that thing straight into space. It'd be great. And he goes, that's what I think the greys are, the alien greys. I'm like, me too, man. Let's talk about that more. But he just wanted to tell me how COVID wasn't a thing. And I was like, yeah, I got a mate who had it in Rome, actually. It is a thing.
Did you guys, when you got that email back, the first email back, before 4 months of just getting dicked around, did you guys, I mean, I know Cody said he manifested it and it was going to happen, but did you guys sort of hesitate and go, Oh, I mean, yes, okay, great for entertainment value, but do we actually want to do this? Do we want to chat to this fucking crackpot, or was it just a case
never
of...
hesitate?
Yeah.
Never ever hesitate, because that's when you talk yourself out of doing stuff. And I'll tell you what, we got 4,000 views on it in the first fucking day.
Nice.
Like it's still the biggest episode. But like the reason you don't we didn't hesitate on that is because what's he going to do? Say no? You know, like you've got nothing to lose. We've messaged heaps of really, really awesome people that have graciously gotten back to us and said they're not interested for whatever reason. Or I say, I messaged Darren Hayes from Savage Garden because I think he'd be amazing to have on the show. And his agent got back and said, for example, oh, look, he's keeping a bit of a low profile at the moment, just kind of enjoying his time and stuff like that. So, but try again another time. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Elise, for saying that. We've had I'm not going to drop heaps of names or whatever, but we've had a few knockbacks from people who kind of just go, now listen, you don't have enough of a following for us to even think about you at the moment, because rather than talking about our art form and how we enjoy doing our thing, we actually just want to spread this to the biggest possible audience. And I'm like, hey, that's also fine. That's totally cool. It gives me the shits a little bit, yeah.
Oh, tell me who. Tell me who.
Oh, no, I wouldn't, because I respect this person's work a lot. And and the thing is, there's a couple of them, for example, that are big names that you would definitely know of that have gone, hey, man, you guys are a small fish in a big pond. And I'm like, that's just motivation to get better and bigger and do it. But it does kind of suck when you feel like, hey, we could have a really good conversation here. And it's like, you can't get upset because people don't want to talk to you. Like, you just go, okay, that's fine. Oh, yeah. Maybe one day you'll see this email again and you'll be like, those guys, I should have listened to them at that time. It would have been a good time.
I mean, if you, I learned this, I mean, I'm constantly learning it all the time. I mean, over the years, like the amount of rejection and half-assed rejection, or just not getting responses back, or, you know, even people that I've known for years and just reading Facebook messages and just never replying and just going, like, what type of cunt are you? Like, come on, like, you know, we've had beers together. At least be polite and just say, hey, man, like, just not my thing at the moment. Just thanks anyway. Really appreciate the thought. But instead, just read it and just fucking just let it go.
Left on read, left on seen.
But I mean,
there's one guy that I want to get that hasn't given us a rejection. Yeah. And he's local to your area, Mr. Donny Benet.
Oh yeah.
You familiar with Donny?
Yeah, but isn't he Melbourne?
No, he's Sydney.
Oh, is he? Oh, fuck.
All right. Man. His real name's Ben Waples, and he's actually a jazz bass player. Like, he's legitimately an excellent. Good. Oh, dude, I think he played with Sarah Blasco for a while as well.
Right.
And apparently he started doing this Donny Benet thing because his mates were on tour and he just wanted to make them laugh while they were away. And he started doing these naff 80s Leisure Suit Larry fucking videos with horrible, like, not horrible, but, you know, naff music behind it. And people were like, this is great. Continue. And he did. And it was great.
And so you've been trying to get him?
Yeah, I'm sending him a message through his through the personal profile and through through an email and stuff like that. But the only time he's written back to me was when I bought a copy of his album, The Don, and the digital download link never got sent to my old email because it was attached to my PayPal account. And I'm like, dude, you're never going to believe this, but Hotmail will not give me access to this. I called Microsoft. That email's dead and it's gone to there. Can you please resend it to this email or whatever? And he goes, hey, man, I'll just get onto Remote Control Records, which is his label, and they'll sort it out for you. So you'll get a message from them. And I'm like, thanks so much. No probs. And then the next one was like, Donny, come on the show. This is why. And then it's just like, scene. No. But hey, man, if anyone's going to leave me on scene, I'm happy that it's Donny Benet, because that guy, my goodness, oof, what a sex machine.
Man,
he's the Adonis.
I found out about him in the most random way. So Alan Averill, who's the front man from Primordial, which is like this, you know, Irish fucking black metal sort of pagan sort of type band.
Standard Donny Benet fans.
Yeah, and I did a podcast with him, and then, I don't know, a few months later, like, he just flicked an odd message here and there, but then he said, check this out, and it was Donny, and he goes, I love this guy, and checking it out, I go, oh, cool, and then I watched a couple of the video clips, and I went, oh, okay, this guy's pretty awesome, but then I forgot all about him, and then not too long ago, because I've got, like, a podcast I do for Patreon, and I, like, in the Patreon episode, what I do is I do, like, a segment called reading, watching, listening. And so whatever I've been listening, watching, reading for the past week, I'll just reflect back and just share some stuff, some little nuggets and good stuff and shit stuff and whatever. But I do release radar. So whatever the algorithm on Spotify is, I'll just run through that and pick wild cards and go, this is shit. This is kind of good. Whatever, fuck this off. I'll comment on the artwork.
And let me guess, Mr. Experience popped up, didn't it?
Well, no. But what I found was there's another guy that he worked with, or I think he plays in a band with, and his name's Jack Ladder, I think. Jack
Ladder, yeah.
Now, so I saw him pop up randomly, but it was an older album, so it must have been like a daily mix that popped in, and he's got an album called Hurtsville, but I read it as Hurstville. And I got so excited because I was like, oh, Hurstville's in Sydney. It's a suburb. And then I was thinking, and I'm like, why doesn't more bands do this? They need to be singing songs about suburbs and cities and towns, like the 80s, like Australian 80s rock, or Bruce Springsteen in the States, or Billy Joel, talk about locations and day-to-day stuff, like everyday life.
Abbey Road.
Yeah. And so I'm crapping on about this. I'm listening to that. Then I got into Donnie, and I was calling him Donnie Bennett. And then after a while, I went back, put the episode out, and I went back into the thing, and I saw, it's Hurtsville, not Hurstville. Okay, so that whole little soapbox moment I had about that was just a complete waste of time. So
that's hilarious.
But Donnie is like, I mean, I said he's Dr. Phil that's let his hair out a little bit. But can play wicked bass. I mean, what a musician. Incredible.
My God, that guy is probably like the premier bass player in the country. He is ridiculous. And this is the funny thing about Donny Benet is people see Donny Benet and they think he's trying to do that like, Nefario fucking Casanova shit, right? But the funny thing is that behind everything Donny Benet does, although it might seem like he's like, hey, baby, I really want to get to know you, and all that kind of stuff, everything that he does is earnest and true. It's like, as much as it is a bit of a gag and a character, everything that he does in the music, if you actually listen to it, there is real emotion and feeling and stuff inside those songs. It's not just a big joke to him. And like to even extend the point further, people were showing up to Donny Benet shows, footy guys like fucking Donny Benet, man. I bet he gets more pussy than anybody. Those kind of guys. Yeah. And he was just like, I don't want dickheads at my gigs. I don't want dickheads to enjoy this stuff. I mean, you can enjoy it, but he's like, I'm being serious here. I mean what I'm saying, and I don't want you to think that I'm just being some kind of creepy old dude who's trying to get chicks or whatever. He's got a wife and child, but like he doesn't want to portray that sort of thing and make people think that that's okay. He's a lover, not a fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like those kind of dudes being not a macho bravado sort of dude in that sense. He's a sweetheart. He's a real sweet kind of dude. But my God, just fucking listen to him play bass. If anything else, if you have to do anything, just listen to the man play bass. That's all you need to do. He's so bloody good.
He would definitely be an interesting person to listen to, like just sharing some of those thoughts and stories, because if you see him on face value, like he would be... Get him. Yeah, well, I mean, hey... You got first dibs, mate. I'll get
no. You got a better chance of getting him. You get him. You get him. Show him a few episodes you've done. You get him, and then you just say, "Hey, man, my mate Broden's got a show. You should do it." And he'll be like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Just do it.
Just do it, man."
I mean, I don't even care if he does it. Even if he knows that I exist, I'll be like, "Oh my God, it's Donny Benet." I seriously, like, I gush for the man, not necessarily in like a homoerotic way. The man is a genius. I really love everything that he's ever done, all the music that he's played. He's a synth freak. He collects drum machines and synthesizers, as do myself. To the man, I wish Donny Benet were here right now. And because Donny Benet is part of my heart and soul, because he's so good. But like, I literally have, not only with my microphone plugged in at this point, but I've got actual like synths plugged in. So I don't know if you can hear those.
I definitely can.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I'll sit here and play this shit all day long, and like Donny Benet could come over to my house and we'd make some sick. We can check this out. Oh yeah. Come on, Donny. Get in on this, Donny. Yeah. We could do this all day long. This could be our lives. I sound like a crazy stalker.
Mate, honestly, like, the cogs are turning, mate. I think you could just put out your own EP, just freestyling a bit of this, and it could be honestly a tribute and like a real, like, what would you call it? Like a call out to Donny, but just do it in the form of an EP. And release it and just say, basically, you can just call it Donny, come on my show or something like that.
Donny, come on the podcast. Yeah. Donny, come on my show. A love letter. Oh, man. You know how hard working on music is, unless you're one of those ridiculously motivated people like fucking LT. My goodness.
Oh, man, that is one thing that's I have not ticked off the list for myself as far as, when we talk about motivation and things like that. I have gear. I've got stuff lying around and they sit in boxes. I don't do anything with it. And for me, like, the fact that I've been able to maintain a podcast just blows my mind, because I always say this, I've got the attention span of a goldfish. Like, unless something works the first time I turn something on, then I give up. I go, no, I can't do it. I'll go off and just, I don't know, go and drink a beer and stare at the wall or something like that. I don't have the patience to go, let's troubleshoot. Let's try and work it out. Let's try and make, let's ask somebody, just fucking ask for some help. Like, and so when I hear, like, even you just blasting some stuff through this, I'm like, oh man, like, what? Oh, I could do that. I've got a fucking synth lying around here. I've got a few things.
Yeah, what synth have you got? Tell me about your synth.
Nah, I've got I shouldn't say a synth. It's just one of those MIDI Behringer MIDI things. I don't know where it is. Under
the controller, like just the UMC something. Oh, the keyboard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can plug it in the computer and play heaps of shit. Then, yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't done it.
You should do it. Yeah. Everyone should have a synth. I think that if I ruled the world, the rule is everyone has to have at least a little Korg Volca or something to play with, because dude, it straightens your thoughts out. It's meditative. It's self-care playing with something like that, because you can veg out on these things. Having synthesizers make me wish I was a marijuana user, because I like the amount of time I spend. I call this the hyperbolic time chamber. You can tell by how excited I am that I can't even keep a fucking sentence down. This place, I spend that much time in here messing around with shit and not getting anything done, that but when I come out, I feel better. I feel great. I feel like I can do whatever I need to do. But the 10 minutes in this room is an hour in the outside world. It's everyone should have a synth. It's great for you.
Well, this might be a good
really fun.
This might be a good segue, because I would assume, just after what you've explained, that you would have contributed to some of the soundtrack to Bonk City Detectives. Then
you'd think that, wouldn't you?
Or no?
No. Strangely enough. You would totally think that, but I didn't. That's all free use music. Because we did that one in no time. That would have been. Well, the thing is, yeah, I did. I'm sorry, but hey, we can segue into a few things, because there is some good news on Bonk City. But I'll get into. So for doing music for shows, I did do soundtrack for a couple of episodes of a web series called Dragon Force X. Not the band. The show was called Dragon Force X. Yeah. Now, excuse me, it was created and directed by Stuart Simpson. Is a guy in Melbourne. He used to work on Recovery. He was a cameraman in the 90s. And the guys do like horror. Excuse me. They're like horror junkies. So they're Monster Fest guys and Melbourne film scene dudes. And I saw a friend do a call out saying, anybody make like synth style stuff, 80s stuff? I've got a friend who needs something. And I'm like, what's the go? She sent Stewie over to me, and he's like, dude, this is what I want. Send me something. And I sent him something. He goes, reckon you can do it? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's give it a shot. So he sends me the episode, and I scored episode 4, and then we reused a few of the motifs from episode 4 throughout the series. But technically I've done synth music for an action TV show, but not Bonk City Detectives. But the good news is, I've been writing the screenplay for Bonk City Detectives 2, in which I think there's going to be more original music. I hope there's going to be raw original music, but we're planning it to the point where it can be done. I want to talk to you about this off air later, because I got something I want to talk to you about Bonk City 2. All right. But the thing is like, if we can sit here, right, and go, okay, a bad guy's coming, so we can score out this bad guy thing, right? Hang on 1 second, just move the mic. We can go, all right, bad guy on the way. We got that sound. Let's make it fatter. or longer. There's now that's a bad guy coming. So we'll give him some more like that. It filters.
Yeah.
But wait, we need a little bit more sex to that. So I'll add some effect. And I'll add some reverb, which I just got to figure out which channel it is. Now, the bad guy's coming through. And so we can do things like that with, just say, like we do an alien monologue ago. The Antisocial Podcast is something that everybody needs to listen to. You need to be careful. And you can you can do things with a synthesizer. You can create moods for anything. You could. That sounds okay. Oh, how about this? Like, no, that's a bit too violent. But you can change. It's still very violent. I had that set up for a Daft Punk song. But within that soundscape, you can create these things for bad guys. Bad guys are synth sounds. They're big, fucking meaty synth sounds. And doing Dragon Force X, it was lots of bad guys, lots of action. There's this one bit where a guy gets hit in the head with a bone club and his head falls to pieces and the skull comes out and blood goes everywhere. And I'm like, I get to fucking make music to go over the top of that. How cool is this?
Why aren't you doing this more in flow state?
Because I have to work during work hours in the week. And then when I get home, I go to sleep, and then I go back to work.
Okay, so it's a time thing, possibly.
I mean, the thing is, I say that, but I mean, there is no excuse. A lot of people use work as an excuse, and I'm probably the biggest one. But I mean, if you really like doing something, you just do it. But there's that risk factor that nobody wants to add that risk in by going, well, I really enjoy the way that I live. I don't want to take 2 days off and learn less and then have less stuff. You know, people don't really want to risk anything to get anything more done or do anything more creative. But I suppose it's just by me going, okay, I like what I do. I like being there. I'm going to utilize my time better outside of that. Start by get up earlier, which I don't, but I should. Get up earlier, get stuff done before work. I don't start early, man. I start at like 10 o'clock. So it's only like a 7-hour day, but I enjoy it. I work at a music shop. I get to go in there, help the lovely people of Bendigo, and then go home. And after that, I'll come into this room maybe, and we'll do an episode or something, and then play some PlayStation. Everything's great. Have some dinner. But it's just a matter of motivation again. I work better in a team with someone to motivate me as well, or to bounce ideas through. But I wish I could just sit there and pump stuff out all day. But you know, after being in a retail job, when you come home, silence is more valuable than music.
Oh, mate,
it's
I know that.
Exhausting.
That. Yep.
Yeah. You talk for a living too, man, and that's when you get home, I'm surprised that you can come and do episodes, because it's exhausting, socially exhausting to be out there solving problems for people all day. And that's the thing. Sometimes, even though it's a retail and a music store, I feel like I'm a fucking detective a lot of times, which is, you know, because literally you're just solving problems for people that they can't solve themselves. And you're like, all right, well, you need a screw for a 1974 SG. We'll find it. You know what I mean? Where was the screw last seen? What's the thread? You know, does it need to match the patina of your original? And then next thing you know, you're calling suppliers like, I've got a few leads. And you're on the phone doing detective work just so you can sell someone a fucking 40-cent screw.
I guess it's that thing where, you know, when you become obsessed over something, it just you find the energy, you find that fire just to keep going no matter what else has taken a bit of you away that day. Like, I mean, I remember like years ago, you know, you get in the car at the end of the day and you're driving home and like radio off, like everything off, stereos off, no phone calls, and you're just driving in silence, and you just like, you don't even know that you're driving. You're just in autopilot because you're so just drained. There's just nothing going on in that head whatsoever. And any stimulus that comes through is like somebody grabbing like a pickaxe and just like throwing it at your head. It's just like, fuck off, you know. But those, But I think once you find things that sort of take your attention elsewhere and you start to become a little bit obsessed with it, then I think you get over that sort of that exhaustion pretty quickly, and then you start to just
very much
find that momentum again.
Well, that's an interesting thing about the podcast stuff is that what do you do most of the time when you interact with people? You speak with them, you talk to them. And somebody at the shop at work had come in, and then they were talking about something to do with recording and stuff like that. And like, oh, you haven't put any music out in this long. What are you doing? And I'm like, I was kind of like, hey, fair. But I'll tell you what I have done. I was like, we've put out about 150 hours worth of podcast content in the last 12 months. Literally, that's more than I've done of anything ever. It's like, because we got the 54 episodes currently that we have out, but between that, we would get on a Wednesday night after the podcast and do a live stream where we would just sit here and just get pissed and talk shit and have a laugh. It was fucking hilarious. So for every episode from like 10 onwards for the next 20 weeks, we were doing live streams, and they were going for 2-3 hours sometimes. So for every episode, most of them go for over an hour. We decided to cut them back to about 40 minutes and just condense the quality down so that we can, get more in. But I'm like, don't have a crack at me about not putting music out when we've put out more entertainment. Like, no one's going to listen to your music. No one listens to local music. No one cares, unfortunately. It really sucks, but they don't. No one listens to that. And if they do, a very small amount of them find it interesting. However, if you can go and have a chat to somebody like Anthony Koutafidis was our first guest, for example. People love Kuta. And so people will come and listen to that, and they'll enjoy that more than me wanking off a couple of synthesizers for fucking 45 minutes. I really hope that they enjoy that also. But I mean, like, if you can ascertain something new from that person that you can implement into your own life and also share that with people, I think that's also nourishing to the soul as is creating music. But I do believe, on the same token, on the back hand of that music in and of itself is quite a selfish venture. That's okay though. You're allowed to be selfish. But I do feel like a lot of the times vanity is involved in music. But then again, we could say the same about podcasts too. It's not called the Everybody Social, is it? It's called Andy Bloody, Mr. Bloody, hey, Mr. Bloody Andy.
Don't put me up against the wall, mate. But yes, no, you're 100% correct. And I think with music, I mean, I've thought about this quite a bit over the years. Where you're right. I mean, it can be very much a selfish sort of path that people can take. And I think where a lot of people don't have the self-awareness to understand where the motivation is actually coming from, because I think a lot of musicians and a lot of people that we both know very well rely on that external validation in order to fuel them, to keep them going. And and so if people aren't paying attention, listening, they're not getting the views or the downloads that they expect, then the motivation depletes. They end up stopping altogether or postponing things, and it just disappears. It fades off into the distance. And I guess that's kind of with podcasting as well. I think for me, like, at times I've caught myself out where I've been so fixated on, are people listening, or what's the reaction, or is there a reaction at all? And then off the back of that determining whether I continue doing something or not. And luckily, each time I've been able to bring myself back and go, but hang on, I actually really fucking love doing this. Like, I really enjoy it. Like, I'm the one that gets to talk to people. I get to have these great conversations, and that doesn't change. So really, I mean, if people enjoy it and they listen to it and they get something out of it, then that's a bonus on top of it. So for me, it's this weird balance of ensuring that I'm always sort of focusing on what feels the best for me and not worrying about that external validation. But then at the same time, in more recent times, I'm trying to think of how can I keep that, but also try and find ways to bring value to people and people get something out of it. So it's not just me being self-indulgent, but also adding some substance, adding some value. And so people listen and go, I got something out of that. I enjoyed it, not just because I was sort of mildly amused, but I'm getting something good from this experience.
And I think that you have that balance there. Like, you definitely have that balance of providing that. Because, I mean, music should be selfish and podcasts should be selfish in the sense that you are only doing it for you and no one else. And the bonus is that people like it. That's great. But the second that you cater to somebody, we've always said on Flow State podcasts that we're happy to take sponsors, but if they want to modify how we operate, then we don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Because we do what we want on that show. Hey, I will catch myself out and say to Cody, I'm going to try not to say cunt for the first 30 minutes. You know, like we'll catch ourselves out and go, I think I'm swearing too much, because Kudafiti's told us off once. He was like, look, I like your show, but I think you're a bit too much swearing for me.
Oh,
so we know that.
Fuck off. Tell him to fuck off.
Kuda, you dickhead. No, Kuda's the best. I'd never tell him to fuck off. He's great. How dare you, Andy? I want to tell him you said that.
Please. I'll ask him to be on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll send him a message. Just says, don't do it. Love Broden. He'll be like, cheers, bro. But like, we catch ourselves out and we develop that as we see fit, because we're doing this for us.
Yeah.
And yeah, hey, you know, there's a consequence for doing that, I suppose, as well. You're sacrificing a little bit of who you really are, a foul-mouthed motherfucker, for more people who can be accessing this thing. But that's okay, because we've made the decision and it is for us anyway. And at the end of the day, you got it. You can't be always catering to other people's needs. You've got to really, really look after yourself, but also understand that if that's inhibiting anyone else, then you kind of really need to reevaluate that thing. You don't have that problem, Andy, because you are, talking to people that other people find interesting. And if you're not, like myself, then you're making it interesting. But you've got those people in there that there's something for everyone on Antisocial. There's something for everybody. You got the guy from Icehouse and fucking Megadeth. I can't think of two further apart bands. You know, what do you do? You got Carmine and Vinny Appice and Apiece, respectively, because their names are the same but different. You know, you've got these dudes. Metal Mike, what's his name? Mike from fucking your mate Mike, Toe Hider Mike.
Yeah, that's it. Mike Mills.
Astronauts, bloody people who apply for. You might notice I've only listened to like the first 20 episodes of Antisocial. The guy who applied for a job at Google. You remember in Adelaide? Brett Garsett, a friend of mine, is on the show. Like all these different people, but there's something for everybody. If I want to look for something on your page, I can always find something I like. There's stuff I probably don't want to listen to. I really love this episode of yours, Andy, with that guy from Melbourne. We talked about it when you came on the Flow State podcast. That guy from Melbourne who sees aliens.
Yes, Peter Maxwell Slattery. Wonder what he's up to these days. That's my favourite episode. Have you been probably got abducted?
I haven't. I should get onto him. I should get onto his page because I mean he's going to be having a field day with this disclosure shit.
Oh, that if anything, this is the page to be following for the past 12 months. Hang on, let's have a quick look.
He's going to be. So our last episode was on the disclosure stuff where we discussed what's going to go on, and I'm like, what is going to happen? You know, are we still going to be able to go to Kmart on a Sunday when they tell us they've got spaceships? Like, is that? I don't think anyone's going to give a fuck.
Well, speaking of which, his latest post is 6th of June and says, going live in a few hours with James Gilliland.
Gillard?
Gilliland. And
Julia Gillard.
No. And it says a little YouTube video here and says, As You Wish Talk Radio, the uncontrolled narrative, what the government and UFO community won't tell you, with an exclamation mark. So that
I feel like I should be scoring this like the things that UFO the government won't let you know about. Disclosure. Sorry.
Well,
couldn't resist.
Well, there's a few. Oh, hey, he's going to Colorado Springs in August of this year. He'll be speaking at the Ascension Summit. Via Zoom due to current world events. Right. There you go. What current world offences are you talking about? I don't know. New World Order. I don't know. Something like that. He's got some UFO photos there, and okay. Might have to get him back on the podcast. I was a little bit hesitant.
You should.
The first time,
get an update.
Why not? Hey.
What do you reckon, Andy, of all these things? Have you seen much of it?
No, not really. I listened to you guys yesterday. Yeah, right. Yesterday, whatever it was, the latest podcast.
Oh, the last episode about the UFOs?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, but I think one of you guys made a quick comment at the start or somewhere during the episode where it's like there's a potential just no one's going to care. Because there's just so much shit out there these days. And I think, to be honest, the world is that fucking crazy these days that nothing is surprising or alarming anymore. And I think people got access to so much stuff, whether it be fact or fiction, that it's just, I think people will just choose to believe or not believe themselves. And unless aliens just rocked up and people could see them in the flesh, or there's like super 4K quality, whatever the highest quality footage is out there of these things walking around, and even then people would still be going, don't know if it's real. It's probably doctored.
I need that. That's what I need, because I'm that guy too. I made a friend, Dan Eliotto, who I'll tell you about Dan in a moment because he's a fascinating guy. He has the same philosophy as I do about having one foot in the shit and going, yeah, I believe it, but also having one foot firmly planted outside of that and going, yeah, I want it to be real. Dude, those are lens flares. Why do you keep posting those videos? It's not a UFO. I did a video tonight, because I'm on a few UFO pages, of these guys are like, oh, what's this? It's following the sun. And I took the same video inside my kitchen with a downlight, because these guys don't realize that even though there's not much space between the glass on the front of your phone and your camera lens, you can get lens flare, and even behind the camera lens, between the two lenses, you can get lens flaring on your little tiny phone thing. So people are still on about this, like this lens flare situation, saying it's UFOs, but you got to have reasonable doubt and go, look, man, they're probably not real. That's probably not real. But I hope they are, and the only way I'm going to believe it is when they fly one over the fucking Melbourne and pick up a car with it. And I hope they do, because that's what I want. That's all I've ever wanted in my life, is for that to be real, just to know that my problems aren't real, because that's what everybody's really worried about, isn't it? Themselves. That's why look, we did episode 10 where we talked about my personal alien abduction experience, right? And I'd heard your Peter Maxwell Slattery episode, and I had deduced a similar thing, that my experience, which I believe was an extremely vivid dream, because I have those frequently. You wouldn't believe the shit that I've done in my dreams. But you can feel everything. You can smell everything. Your watch still works. You can turn the lights on. All of that stuff works in your dreams. And I just had a really, really good one about aliens. And it was the coolest thing that ever happened to me in my life. But, you know what I mean? Oh, that's not proof. People will say, you got abducted, man. And I'm like, I don't think I did. But I wish I did.
Lucid dreaming or something like that, or I guess.
I used to do it all the time.
Yeah,
man, that was never get into lucid dreaming, because it's quite addictive, and you don't sleep a lot when you're doing it. It's a lot of fun. You don't have to take drugs to do it either.
I've got a book on my bookshelf that I haven't read yet, which is Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming. And
hey, man, have a crack.
It's there. I'll never come back.
You should. you may not. It's a lot of fun, man. Like, to be able to fly over things from your memory is really, really cool. But like, a lot of people get into that whole, you got to do DMT to get any results for anything and stuff like that. It's like, well, your body like produces that. You can just, I don't know how to do it, but just have a good dream, have a lucid dream. You don't have to take drugs all the time, because Joe Rogan said you should.
he is the god of well, not the population. I was going to say that maybe the male sort of heterosexual white male population.
Yeah.
Global population.
Hey, look, if you like jiu-jitsu and you smoke meat, you'll probably like Joe Rogan, which is cool, because I like those things too. I don't do jiu-jitsu, but I love smoked meats. Don't have a smoker, but I watch some Joe Rogan episodes, because he's the only dude who has the alien guys on and listens to them.
Yeah.
Love him.
Mate, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole yet. With this, but I think we definitely need to, and I've got a bunch of other things to quiz you on, but I think we need to do another catch up down the track. But before we wrap it up, and we did mention it really quickly with Bonk City and obviously the podcast itself, but maybe just and I'll give a plug at the start and the end about all this stuff anyway. But what's the premise behind the first Bonk City Detectives, and where's it going as far as a bit of a hint of what's to come? What can people expect?
Fantastic. So I'll try not to take the too long way around, but as you listener may have noticed, I talk a lot of shit. I have a very short attention span as well. So Bonk City Detectives started when I was out at Cody's one day after a podcast that we filmed, and we were sitting down, and he goes, she's showing me some really good British comedy. I said, man, have you heard of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place? And he's like, no. What's that? And I'm like, it's got all these guys in it that you've been showing me. Richard Ayoade, Matthew Holness, Matt Berry, the Mighty Boosh guys. And I said, just fucking sit back and watch this. And we put it on, and he sees this dude who looks like R.L. Stein, and Stephen King had a fucking chubby baby. And we watched Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and Cody couldn't breathe after the first episode. He was crying, and he was doubled over, and we were laughing our fucking asses off together. And he goes, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. We have to make something like this. And I'm like, because we've been talking about trying to make a show for a while. We did short skit about a guy who'd been abducted by aliens called Lloyd. And anyway, he goes, we've got to make something like this. And I'm like, why don't we just do this? And he's like, can we? And I'm like, this is 15 years old, man. No one, this is only one season, like 6-episode season. No one's going to watch this. No one's going to worry if we copy this. So we copied it, but they're hospital workers, right? Doctors and shit, but they're pretending to be detectives. Essentially, they're acting as detectives. So I said, let's just make it detectives. And so we made it detectives. And the reason we called it Bonk City is because in Cody's family, the term bonk, unlike in every other place in the world, didn't mean having intercourse. It meant doing a poo. Because bonk in Australia, if you oh man, they were bonking, man, like bonking means doing it.
Yeah.
But in his family, doing a bonk was doing a poo. And so we used to just call things bonk, like piece of bonk. Oh, that's shit. That's bonk. And so he's like, what do we call it? And I'm like, what about Bonk City Detectives? Like, because it's just something that was funny to us. And it worked. So we filmed it over about 4 or 5 afternoons, just of us fucking around. We would make it up on the day. It took us ages to do the takes because we were laughing our fucking heads off. And, we lit up a car with some LEDs and stuff like that, and we filmed it, and then we put it out. And then I was on a holiday. I was on my way to Sorrento. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the bottom of Victoria, but I was from Queenscliff to Sorrento on a ferry, and Cody's freaking out because he's trying to get the edit done, and he needs credits. So I'm writing the credits on the toilet in a ferry, doing a shit in the back straight. And we pumped that out, but when he released the final one, he put like a VHS effect on it, except because he was looking at it in a smaller window, he didn't realize how big the actual artifacting was. So when we released it, it looked like we had to have 3D goggles to watch it. So that was kind of sucked in that sense, but we did a director's cut release, which is the same thing but without the effect. One of the main reasons we did release that is a friend of mine, Dean Eliotto, is a film director in the States. He directed one of the first found footage movies ever. It was the first found footage movie called The McPherson Tapes, which is about a family who gets systematically abducted by aliens in a farm, and it's shot on a handy cam. And it was 10 years before the Blair Witch Project. And I made friends with Dean because I saw his movie when I was 10 and it ruined my life. And I contacted him 3 years ago when I saw it again on TV, and I said, dude, did you make this movie? Because when I saw it, it had no credits.
Right.
And he said, 6 months later, he writes back, yes. And then I said, firstly, fuck you. You ruined my life. I love the movie. Thank you so much. You're the coolest. And he's like, no probs. Then eventually I said, do you want to be on the podcast? And he gave me this convoluted no, and I thought he was being an asshole. Then I realized this guy's fucking hilarious. So I wrote back something even funnier back, and he came on. And I wanted to show this to Dean, but he couldn't watch it because it was too much of the effect. So we removed it. Him and his girlfriend watched it, and they loved it. And ever since then, I've been getting little bits of advice on how to write a screenplay.
Nice.
And so I've written the first 2 acts of Bonk City 2, and it's going to be great. It's going to be funnier than ever. It's Richter's going to be back in it, which is our friend Scotty Toll, who is a former hardcore wrestler, Scotty Richter. Look him up. He does some crazy stunts. He stapled a guy's nutsack to a fucking patio chair once. So Bonk City 2 is happening. We want to get it. We want to get it as done as soon as we can. I think I'm about 20 kilos too heavy to play the role anymore, but that's what beer does to you. So we want to get Bonk City done. We're writing it. We're nearly finished with the writing process. We've got cool effects that are going to do a head explosion. There's going to be laser beams. There's going to be robots. It's going to be fucking great. It's we're really looking forward to Bonk City Detectives 2.
Mate,
episode 2.
I cannot wait for this because the first one was just so well done, and it goes for like 20 minutes or something like that. And And I sat down there with my wife Jess, and we just watched it. And these days, I'm like, I just expected like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minute little clip or something like that. And then I loaded it. I'm like, 20 minutes. And then
what's this 20 minutes? You can't monetize anything less than 10 on YouTube. But watch all the 15 ads that we put in there.
But before I knew it, it was over. It was just well done, and it was just hilarious, and yeah, it's just so well done, and knowing, like, no doubt how you guys approach it, and even just you explaining it sort of just validates sort of, what I would expect to be happening, where you guys are just trying to keep your laughter contained and just try to stay semi-serious throughout the whole thing. It was just,
to be honest, we probably could have done it in a day if we weren't laughing our fucking heads off. Like, it's for real, because we were pissing ourselves. We're like, we are fucking idiots. Like, imagine if someone came along and saw us out in a paddock in the middle of Huntley outside of Bendigo with an LED light in the back and a camera at the front going, well, don't forget your enchiladas. Like, like, we are fucking idiots. No one else is doing this. Why? Everyone's out buying houses and having kids, and we're fucking sitting in a car filming a dumb cop show. It was great. The best time we ever spent.
It'll be a cult favorite. Years and years down the track. It will.
Great memes.
Oh, mate. Well, look, so good to catch up with you, and I think why not, record it for a podcast and put it out there. I mean, it's just good to chat anyway. But obviously, people can go and check out Flow State, and I'll put links in so people can go and sub that and tune in and listen, and obviously watch the videos on Facebook and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. I'll put Bonk City in there as well, and anything else that you want to throw at me, I'll chuck in there as well. But mate, good to have it a chinwag. And do you want to just take us out with a little bit of, I don't know, like you can do an a cappella thing or a little song.
All right, hang on, I'll get some of that drum action going again. So here we go. Thank you. I just want to say thanks so much, Andy, because you paved the way for podcasting in Australia as far as I'm concerned. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, but all that shit reeks of like corporate money, where yours is like mates helping mates. Tim LT did the theme song for you. You got mates doing drawings for each of your episodes. All your graphics look great. I don't know who's editing it, but it's coming up great. You're pulling it together.
That's Tim Yatras.
Oh, YT.
Yeah.
TY. Well, the funny thing is I've got a group chat with LT and TY. Because they're synth freaks and we're working on doing a bit of a project together, but I won't say too much about that. But that's great. Well, I'll bother him about that later on. But so thank you so much, Andy. I'm going to improvise something with drums because it's the same thing that I've got on. So cheers, mate.
Alrighty, folks. Now I'm going to put a bunch of shit in the show notes over at andysocial.net and andydowling.net. I'm going to put stuff for the Flow State podcast. I'll embed a few videos from the podcast itself. I'm going to put stuff from Bonk City Detectives in there. I'm going to put stuff from LUFFEGUN or LUFFEGUN, or I can't even remember. Broden told me later on how you pronounce it, and of course I've forgotten it, but I'm going to put that in there as well. All the links will be in there. So click through, go and support the guys. Of course, they'll be in the description of this podcast episode as well. So click through, say hi to Broden, and definitely get behind, sub and share and do all the social media love and give them a bit of anti-social love. I'm sure they'd be stoked to hear from you guys. But amazing stuff. I'm just stoked that after so many years, we're still connected, and just another great chat with another great guy. So there you go. Go and support the blokes. Now, before we wrap it up, of course, patreon.com/Andy Dowling. It is, I always say it is honestly the best way and the most effective way. It's the most significant way of supporting this podcast. Of course, listening to it is the main goal. Of course, we want people to listen to it, but backing me on Patreon is absolutely huge. It is huge. Taking a bit of the financial pressure off running a podcast. You heard a little bit about that in this discussion with Broden. There's lots of costs that come into running a podcast, but I think more importantly for me, it's the motivation, it's the accountability, it's the validation from you guys, getting behind me, backing me, getting a bit of crowd support, and helping me fuel my way through this podcasting journey. Almost 6 years in, and we're still firing away on all cylinders. So it's thanks to the Patreon community. It means a hell of a lot. And I thought this week or this episode, that I just, instead of, like, usually what I'll do is I'll shout out the top tier supporters. These guys are in the top 2 tiers over at Patreon. They are the significant contributors to Patreon. But I thought I might just break the rules a little bit and just thank everyone. And everyone's going to, and people, you're listening now going, oh, fuck, mate, fast forward, like, quick, let's get to the next podcast. Let's listen to somebody else. But I've got to do it. I just got to, just every once in a while, I've just got to give the full list a good working. So thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you for joining me on Patreon over at patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Just throwing another plug in there. Thank you to Ryan from Adelaide, Andrew from Perth, Mick G from Sydney, Ash from Deniliquin, Dan from Dapto, Riley from Sydney, the Toe Hider guys from Melbourne, Lords of the Trident from Madison, Wisconsin, Sean from Oregon, the US, Johnny from South Australia, Zach from Adelaide, Rod from Rayleigh, North Carolina, Matt from Adelaide, Saul from Oxford in the UK, Patrick from Canberra, Liam from Brisbane, Tom from Melbourne, Chris from Sydney, Frank from Untergruppenbach in Germany, don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Lewis from Airlie Beach, Turner from Armidale, Samantha from Sydney, Brenda from Leeton, Tim from Canberra, James from Brisbane, Bradley from Canberra, Sean from Melbourne, Kurt from Brisbane, Jason from Adelaide, Christian from Canberra, Cole from Port Kembla, Jordan from Bendigo, that's Jordan Rocksteady Vessel fame right there, another Bendigo guy, Steve from the Gold Coast, Blooming Theatricals from Melbourne, Christopher from Pace in Florida, Ben from Cincinnati in Ohio, Veronica from Adelaide, Scott from Melbourne, Tristan from Melbourne, Gareth from Perth, Chris from Sydney, Fierce Deity from Hobart, Glenn from Canberra, Andrew from Sydney, and Talitha, oh no, there's more, Talitha from Brisbane, Daniel from Melbourne, and Carl from Melbourne as well. I forgot about the newbies. Excellent. Thank you so much for supporting me, backing me. It just means a hell of a lot. So my goal this year is to get as many $1 supporters as possible. So come on over to patreon.com/Andy Dowling. Support me, $1 a month. Set, forget. You won't even notice it. And it's a great way to support me and the little old podcast, the Anti-Social Podcast. So that's enough crapping on from me. Thank you so much. And until next episode, take care and ta-ta.